Hey folks, David Stewart here. Before I get started today on this little one, newest books, Moonsong Book 3, Shadow and Smoke. You should probably start with Book 1. This is high fantasy with like guns and pirates, fun stuff. And the Pulp Rock Anthology put together by Alexander Halim. One of my 2-hour books is in this. It's called Farewell to Once and Future Kings. It's about musicians who were spies in space. So check those two out. Let's talk about attempting to adjust reality to your expectations rather than the inverse, which is adjusting your expectations to reality. So this is a little saying of mine that I've been putting out there for years. So I thought I'd make a video specifically on it because there's so many examples. When you are attempting to adjust reality to your expectations, what you're attempting to do is to change the attitudes of everybody else according to how you wish they would think, or to change the makeup of the reality in the world and the systems around you in order to fit your preference for how things ought to be. And this usually doesn't work out. This is why I bring it up, is that it's really, really, really difficult to adjust reality to your expectations, whereas adjusting your own expectations to reality just requires some personal introspection and to think about what options are actually available to you as an individual. So let's talk about some examples. When I was in education, this was really, really popular with a lot of education policy, all the way down to the way that individual teachers thought about students. They wanted to adjust reality to their expectations. And they had a belief that kids were equally capable with each other and things like that. So let's say you had a kid and he's very behind. That is to say, he's failed lots of classes. There's a knowledge gap between him and his peers. There's a belief in education that somehow you're going to catch this student up to his peers, that we're going to put him in an accelerated program and he's going to learn all this stuff and then he's going to get back in the mainstream with his peers. And the problem with this is that you're trying to adjust this reality to your expectation about how students ought to learn. The kid who has failed math class for 5 years is not going to hop into an accelerated math learning program that's going to fill in all his knowledge gaps and get him back into Algebra 2 with his peers in high school. It's just not going to happen. The reason he's failed math for 5 years is not just that he's had bad math teachers, though that's probably part of it. It's not just that there's a knowledge gap, but he's probably has a deficit as far as learning math goes. That is, he is not as capable as learning math as his peers. That's why he falls behind and his peers don't. It's not just that the teacher didn't correct for that or didn't teach him well enough or that nobody caught the problem until he got to hie school. It's really that he's less capable than his peers. So expecting him to learn all the math material from 5th grade to 10th grade in a year so that he can catch up to his peers and be in like mainstream 11th grade math is just ridiculous. What you should do instead, adjusting your expectations to reality, is to assess where he is as far as his knowledge of math goes and put him in a program that will get him as much learning as possible, that will do the best, as fast a learning as he can do given the situations. It's the same thing with if you're like, well, we're going to give the kid a bunch of extra homework to catch him up on his knowledge. Well, one of the reasons that the kid is behind is that he doesn't do homework. He doesn't go home and have parents that make him do homework. He just goes home. So you only have the kid between 8 and 3. That's reality. You don't have him between 8 and 3 and he goes home and works diligently like a very good little student that cares about school. So the reality is quite different from the reality that a lot of teachers wish it to be. A lot of teachers wish that kids were intrinsically motivated to learn. Why don't they just enjoy learning? They should like learning this because of intrinsic reasons, because they like to learn. Well, what's the problem with that? They may not be motivated. They don't care, right? So finding extrinsic reasons for kids to learn is reality, whereas just how do I make them intrinsically interested in learning? Well, you can't. Good luck, I should say. Good luck adjusting reality to your expectations. There's many other examples of this, but in education is where I really noticed this very profoundly, is people operated in a world of illusions where they thought they could adjust the world. They could change the world to fit their ideal, and it just doesn't work out. Here's a good example from modern life is somebody walks into a store and demands that they be addressed using certain words. They demand that they be called certain things that don't line up with their appearance, their obvious appearance, and don't line up with the reality of who they are. And I'm not going to name anything because that'll get me in trouble. But you know what I'm talking about. Hopefully you are keen enough to know what I'm talking about. And we have videos of people raging against clerks because the clerk called them the wrong thing. They demand that everybody else in the world conform to their belief about who they are rather than who they obviously are according to the external reality. So that's attempting to adjust reality to your expectations. I want to make everybody address me the way that I want to be addressed, regardless of what their culture thinks about it, regardless of what I look like, regardless of how reality actually is. That's attempting to adjust reality to your expectations. And it usually doesn't go over very well. Another example would be, say, like masks, that people want everybody else in the world to wear masks. They want everybody else to do the things that they are doing. They want everybody else to engage in the things that they believe in. And before long, you basically end up in almost a religious situation where you demand that everybody else do it because you believe that it works. And if you believed it worked, then you probably wouldn't need everybody else to do it. But that's the way that these things tend to work. We want to adjust reality to our expectations. If we just all did it, eventually, the reality that I am imagining would come about. There's so many more examples. A really good one was, I made this video about that men should avoid crying. And the reason is society looks down on men crying. It's viewed as a sign of weakness. There's no advantage to crying in public, right? So I say that and people get all upset about it. Men should cry in public, I shouldn't be thought of as weak because I cry in public, and that's trying to adjust reality to your expectations. I'm telling you how reality is. I'm trying to break this illusion that you have that somehow we can change the world and make people think differently about male emotion. No, you need to accept the reality that you live in, and if you were able to accept that reality, you can gain certain advantages. A lot of times people end up at a disadvantage because they're trying to adjust reality to their expectations, not the other way around. They are trying very hard. They're acting with the belief system that if they do something, everybody else will somehow conform to their belief about how they have to think about things, and it just doesn't work that way. Maybe society should think differently about how men cry. That doesn't change how reality actually is, though. You need to think about what is real whenever you are attempting to navigate the reality, because you don't have control over society. You don't have control over other people's thoughts. You don't have control over how every little system is designed. Instead, what you have control over is yourself and some of the things that are in your immediate vicinity. Going back to the example of education, I don't have control over the kid's home situation, or I don't have control over the way his mind is constructed, what he's interested in, not interested in, learning disabilities he might have, or something like that. I don't have control over that. What I have control over is what my specific interactions as a teacher are with that kid, and just trying to maximize what's possible with those interactions, given that I also have to help all the other kids in the class as well. I can't devote 100% of my attention to one kid. So you work within the limitations that you have to do the best job that you can. And that's the way that you do most work, right? If you think about software that gets stuck in development hell, it's because they are not able to really think about the limitations of what the project is and ought to be and what they're capable of. And you start to I guess, reach beyond your grasp. Is that what it is? Reach beyond your grasp. You try to go too far and you're not able to. You go bridge too far. You try to go past what you're actually capable of doing. And we see this a lot with politics. The utopian vision of things is an attempt to adjust reality to your expectations. And there's a belief that, if we just get enough state power and we just push hard enough and we force people to do what we want to do, then reality will alter itself around what we wish it to be. This kind of view was very popular in the 20th century, not just with socialists, but lots of different political philosophies, is that if we change the environment of man, we can remake man into what we want him to be. And I think it's safe to say after 100 years of that those attempts failed, that the reality of human nature and the reality of societies and human cultures is as such that you have a limited capacity to try to alter that reality, to change reality and make it conform to your own expectations. So anyway, that's my thoughts on that. This is something that I think about a lot, is like, what am I actually capable of doing, and how can I be effective with that, rather than how can I change the world and everything in it so that it's the way that I want it to be. You have to think about your limitations and how reality actually is for you. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. Newest books, Shadow and Smoke and Pulp Rock. You can grab those. This is edited by Alexander Helene, and he's got a story in here as well, I think, as well as a whole bunch of other authors. So I hope you will go ahead and check that out and leave a review, because there's not a whole lot of reviews up for this. So if you do get this collection, please do leave a review on Amazon. It's very helpful. And of course, any reviews for my books, I'm very, very grateful for. So thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time.